this past week was Rosh Chodesh Kislev. And we know that means Hanukkah is approaching, and it's the month of miracles, as we witnessed on Sunday. The Jet come back, 10 points with 4 minutes to go. You didn't see the Yad Hashem in there, so either way, it's a good opportunity now to discuss the concept of miracles in Halacha and Hashkafa. So we'll begin with a couple of questions and then try to give some answers. So before we begin, what exactly is a miracle? When we say miracles, what's a miracle? So, in fact, the Bali Musa point out that it's actually, if let's say it's actually a greater miracle, childbirth, than it is Tchiyas HaMesim, than it is the resurrection of the dead. Imagine if someone put on the headlines, paper, child born today. Everyone would be laughing, like, what are they telling me? That it happens all the time. But if you imagine the headlines, resurrection of the dead, everyone would be crazy, it'd be on all the news shows, they'd make the rounds. But really the Bali Musa tell us we have it all wrong. It's a greater miracle for childbirth, because at least the body's there, it just has to be resurrected. But a child created from a tipa strucha, a little drop, and amazing, a child grows out of it, that's a tremendous miracle. But as always in life, we're creatures of habit. Things that happen all the time, we consider nature. And things that happen once in a while, we call a miracle, like the famous Ramban. The Ramban points this out. So when the Jews entered Eretz Yisrael during the time of Yeshua, so Yeshua said, you know what? I have something to tell you guys. We're going to take these seeds and put them in the ground. We're going to be an agricultural country, and we're going to have all these things growing all over. And they said, what? From a little seed, you mean grass is going to grow? Corn's going to come out of the ground? You're going to have a 50-foot tree? Are you kidding me? I don't believe that. What a miracle. Because that's what they were, because they're used to mud and Hashemayim. But for us, if we had food, if we tell you food's coming from heaven tomorrow, well, to the point being is everything's a nace. Everything God does, the world, HaMachadish B'tuva B'chol Yom Tamid, we say every day. Every day He renews His greatness on the world. But things that happen all the time, we call nature, and things that happen once in a while, we call miracle. It reminds me of a story with the Beis HaLevi. The Beis HaLevi, from the Soloveitchik family, he was collecting money for his yeshiva or some good cause, and he approached this person who was known to be, let's say, a miser. He didn't go into his pocket too often, but there's one thing this guy liked. He liked miracles. So the Beis Levi said, how about if I do a miracle, will you give me X amount of money, $1,000, whatever it was? He said, okay, if you can do a miracle for me, I'll give you some money. He said, great. He said, you know what I'm going to do? You see the four corners of the table? I'm going to take 4 bills, $4 bills, put them on each end of the table. You see this bowl on the table? These $4 bills are going to end up in this bowl. Oh, great. Sounds like a good one. Let's go for it. So he's there with his son. So he says, Chaim is his son. Chaim, go take the dollar bills and put it on top of put it inside the bowl. So the guy said, what is it? What do you do? What kind of miracle is that? He said, to get money from you, that's a tremendous nace. So, but either way, so we see miracles really doesn't make a difference if it happens all the time or not. It's what we call. So for our purposes, we call nature, we'll call natural, and we'll call miracle, but really they're interchangeable. In fact, that's the pshat they say about with Leah, Hapam Odes Hashem. That Leah was the first one, the Gemara in Brachas on Zayin Amud Beis, was the first one to recognize God, recognize the miracles. The question is, that many people brought karbanos before, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Adam, Noah, I mean, she was the first one to recognize the miracles. No, but the answer is, she was the first one to recognize God in nature, on the natural miracles, on the supernatural nisim everyone picked up on, but she was the first one to pick up on even on nature, and that's why we say every day there's an apparent contradiction in the Gemara. The Gemara says in Shabbos, someone who says Hallel every day, you're Magadef and a Macharef. You're like a blasphemer, you're cursing out God. It's terrible. What's so bad about someone who's praising God? And the Gemara says it's like the worst thing in the world. Yet we know, the Gemara tells us in Brachas, one who says Ashrei 3 times a day, Muftach Liolam Haba, is guaranteed a place in the world to come. So the problem is, Ashrei comes in the book of Tehillim. How else comes to Tehillim? So how can it be? I say the book of Tehillim every day, I'm great and I'm a blasphemer. Which one is it? So the Meshach Chachma, Rabbi Simcha Cohen explains along these lines that it depends. One who says Hallel, what's Hallel? On a supernatural nace. You know, God, if you do a miracle for me, then I'll believe you. So therefore, if you only see God in the supernatural things, and you miss the everyday existence that we woke up this morning, we could see, we have arms, we have legs, then you're Magadef or Macharef. Ashrei, if you take a look next time, it's in the form of Aleph, Beis, Gimel, every pasuk, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled. It's the everyday things. If you see God in the everyday things, the things we have in common with animals, then you're Muftach. It's not saying Ashrei. That means your attitude. You appreciate things in life. You know, we live in the society of, you know, the entitlement generation. People feel that's why you have so many people walking around depressed and sad, because if you feel you have everything coming to you, so when you have it, you don't appreciate it. It's only if I don't have it, then you go into your depression mode or a tantrum mode to get what you want. But a person has to learn to appreciate the things they have. That everything we have is a gift, and that's why Ashrei represents the everyday things, and that's why one who has that attitude is Muftach Olam Haba. So moving along, so now that we define miracles, do we have miracles today? Do they actually exist? We know we talk about miracles in the Bible, the Torah, different stories in Navi, Gemara, but are there miracles today? So from the Gemara in Yuma and Daf Chaf Test quotes Ramnatseach Alayeles Hashachar, that the Gemara over there makes a drasha that Purim was the last miracle. That basically it says Ramnatseach Alayeles Hashachar, that this like Shacharis, morning is the end of night, so too Esther is Sof Kol Hanisim. So too Esther is the end of all miracles. There are different explanations on that we'll get to when we get to Hanukkah. But basically the simple reading of the Gemara is that Purim was the end of the Nisim Neflos, or the end of the miracles. So the implication of that Gemara is that's it. No more miracles. And there's another Gemara in Brachas, Daf Chaf and Beis, that one of the rabbis, how come we don't have miracles today? So you know why? The previous generations, they were Moser Nefesh, they sacrificed, they appreciated, etc., and they warranted miracles. We don't anymore. So from these two Gemaras, the implication are that's it. No more miracles. However, if we look at the Shulchan Aruch and even the Mishnah Berurah, who lived 100 years ago or less, in Shulchan Aruch they quote the halacha: if you walk in by a place where a miracle happened, so the Shulchan Aruch is talking about making a bracha. Sha'asali neis b'makam hazeh. You make a bracha on a place where you walk by a miracle. So what is the example of a miracle? So it says you're walking in a midbar in a desert, and all of a sudden water starts sprouting up from the ground. You know, today maybe we see living miracles in the Negev, how today with modern technology and the help of God, how they're getting, you know, everything working there as well. But that's an example of a miracle, supernatural miracle. Obviously, water just sprouted out, and the Mishnah Berurah is writing, discussing you make a bracha. So obviously, the Mishnah Berurah felt there were miracles today because he's saying halacha l'maisa, you make the bracha. So we have an apparent contradiction. So the two Gemaras in Yuma with Esther and Purim, and the Gemara in Brachas, it says no miracles today. But for the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah, the implications are there are miracles. So that's Q1. Q2 is another apparent another question. Assuming there are miracles today, do we want miracles to happen to us? Is it a good thing when a nace happens to us? Because why would I say not? There's a famous Gemara in Tainus, and Chaf Dalet, Chafei, around there, The story was Rabbi Yossi took some workers and went out to the farmland, and they were working out in the middle of nowhere where they worked, and he realized he forgot the lunch at home. He was supposed to bring lunch for everyone. So everyone was starving and hungry, so I guess they were sitting by a fig tree, an unripe fig tree, and he said something that he did some nace where all the figs became ripe, and they ate happily ever after. They were full, okay. And then all the Yossi's father shows up, like later. He says, I'm sure all you guys are starving. I noticed you forgot your lunches. Here's the food. So they said, oh, we can't eat, we're stuffed. I can't eat anything. What do you mean? So they told him what happened. So Rabbi Yossi's father went steaming at his son. And we see the Gemara rebukes him for being too tough on his son, but he said, you know what, you forced God to do a miracle. You took the unripe grapes, unripe figs, and you made them ripe. Not in the time, so too you're going to die before your time, something like that. And either way, he was rebuked, but that was his message. I thought miracles are great. He's saying, but who wants them? I don't need the figs. They're only figs anyway. At least make a miracle of ribs or something to make it worth my while. But figs, I mean, you're not going to start worrying over figs. But we see from this Gemara that clearly it's not a free lunch. I'll give you another example. The Gemara in Shabbos. A young couple got married, or an old couple, whoever it was, and they had a little baby. And apparently the mother died. So the father was only the father and the child. And I guess they were afflicted with poverty. They had no money. So he couldn't even go to the store for milk. So the Gemara says a miracle happened. The man grew breasts, and he was breastfeeding his child. So you say, wow. And the Gemara says, Kama garua zeh, how terrible that is. I mean, that you matrik God to do a miracle on that. So basically, another base happened. The Gemara is very down on it. Like, it's going to cost you, pal. It's not free. You're better off not having this. So on one hand, so let's assume there are miracles, but we see from those two Gemaras, we don't want miracles to happen to us. It ain't worth the price. As what was the Beretta song? That was right before your time. There was the show Beretta that I didn't like the show so much, but I just remember like the introduction and the music. It said like, don't do the crime if you can't pay the time. So obviously, if a miracle is going to cost me this, then who needs the miracles? Who wants miracles? On the other hand, the Gemara in Tanyas on the next page has the story with Hanina ben Dosa, one of the great rabbis. He lived with miracles in his home. One of the famous cases is, it was Friday afternoon before Shabbat, and the daughter said, I made a mistake, Daddy. I put vinegar in the candles instead of oil. So Rechina says, don't worry about it. He who commands oil to burn will also command vinegar. What's the difference? Oil, vinegar, and burn it did. I think it lasted until they used it for Havdalah, I believe the Gemara tells us. So the question is, and he thinks a miracle is great. Like, of course miracles, it's great. I want miracles. And he didn't switch it for oil. So which one is it? Are miracles good or not? So on one hand, do we have miracles today? Appear in contradiction. Do we want a miracle? So it depends. On the two Gemaras, Rabbi Yosef and the one who grew breast, it's a terrible thing. Kama garua zeh. On the other hand, Hanina ben Dosa, great, bring them on. I love miracles. And we'll come back to them with another one shortly. Question number 3. What about the concept of praying for a miracle? Praying for an ace. Should I pray for a miracle? So there's a famous Gemara in Brachas, Adaf Samach. The Gemara talks about Leah. Also fits into the parsha. That Leah was pregnant again, and she realized, I guess with Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, she was going to have a boy. And she looked at the cheshbon, and she realized who else had the kids. And she realized if she has another boy, the maidservants are going to have more kids than my sister Rachel. So basically she prayed, so basically it's a whole discussion actually, so very relevant to modern technology. This is an old question. It's basically a discussion what happened, but some say it was a switch in utero, that they took out Leah, switched with Rachel. So therefore she took Dinah, and Yosef went to Rachel. In fact, if Yaakov Kamenetsky points out, we even see some leftover from this, because what do we see? We see Yosef playing with his hair. That was a woman's thing, at least then. And we know Dinah was out on the field, like with the guys, like a tomboy. Mm-hmm. So he said that was based on real, because originally Dinah was supposed to be a boy, and she got switched. Depending on different shots, that's how they, that's already, the Targum Onkelos, already talks about, this is a recent modern technology question, but it's been in Chazal for a long time already, this question. So the point being is, so she prayed. So the Gemara says, after 40 days, you can't pray for what's in the womb, because it's a tefillah shav. That's a separate discussion, whether in medical science today, whether it's determined before 40 days or not. That's a separate shiur. We can discuss it with the doctors later, but that's what the Gemara says. So she's davening after 40 days. It's a tefillah shav. How can you pray for a miracle? How can you pray for... The Gemara answers Leah was different. Normally you can't. You're right. We don't pray for Nisim. Leah was different. And then we also have as well, and the Bechor Shor's question is, if you forget Al HaNisim on Chanukah, in the benchings there's a special Harachaman you make. Harachaman hu yasalanu Nisim neflos. So the Bechor Shor asks, Hare English spell al Maisim Nisim. What are we doing here? We're asking for Nisim. So on one hand we say we don't pray for miracles, on the other hand we do. So what's going on? And the fourth and final question is, what about, we'll come back to that one, but the other, we'll come back to different answers on whether we pray for miracles. And the fourth one is about, we have a concept in halacha, ein somchen al hanes. We don't rely on a miracle. The Gemara tells us in Shabbos, Rama Beis Amid Aleph, la'olam al yamod adam b'makam sakana. A person should not go or stand in a dangerous place. Lomar sha'osim, and say, you know what, don't worry. Osim lo nes, don't worry, I'm okay, a miracle will happen. Don't do that. Why? Two reasons. One, pretty obvious. Shama ain't osim lo nes, perhaps the miracle won't happen. And secondly, v'im osim lo nes, as we discussed before, minakin lo b'sichuyasav. Do you want a nes to happen? It's going to cost you big time. And interesting, they learned it out from the pasuk in next week's in the parashas Vayishlach. Katonti mikol hasidim mikol emes asher asisi esadeh. There's a famous gra on that. I think Vayishlach is the eighth parasha in the Torah from Bereshit, and I think this is the eighth pasuk. And he said something about 8 and 8. That Vilna Gaon learns out that Katoti Milcha Chasidim, there's like a small ches in there, and basically the source that a Talmud Chacham should have a little gaiva. I don't want to say a little arrogance, but should have a little self-confidence. How do we know? We learned it out from Yaakov. The Yaakov realized, Katoti Milcha, I don't deserve all these gifts. In other words, I deserve some of them, maybe not Katonti. So we see you have a little bit, but either way, so we learn out from there, and that's the famous gra in next week's parsha. But the point being is, we have a principle, ein somchen al hanes. We don't rely on miracles. On the other hand, Hanina ben Dosa, back to him, the famous Gemara in Brachos, another one, that there was a snake roaming around in the yeshiva. Like when a bee comes in the class, and remember everyone goes crazy, try teaching a class in the summer when you have bees flying around, everyone's like running around, trying to protect themselves. Imagine snakes roaming around, and all the kids are like, looking around the snake, either scared or trying to kill it. Who knows what they're doing with snakes? So I guess Hanina Mendoza said, okay, so where is it? So they say he just went down this hole here. So Hanina Mendoza took off his shoes, he put his bare foot on top of the hole, and the snake bit him, and he died. The snake died, that is. Not Hanina Mendoza. And the students had a song, they were singing, woe is it to the snake who bites Hanina Mendoza. The whole song they were singing in yeshiva for a while after that. But Ein Sof Alanei. So what's he doing? He's relying on a miracle. A snake's going to bite him, and the snake's going to die. So what's going on here? I know there also is a famous incident in Navi with Uzzah, that the Aron Kodesh was traveling. It looked like it was falling, so he went to try to catch it, and he had a severe penalty. The Gemara, they say over there, the Aron carries itself. It certainly you don't need anyone else to carry it. But what do you mean? Ain't someone else? You mean if I see an Aron falling, just let it go? Like what did he want from the guy? So apparently sometimes Ein Somchin Alanei, other time what's the rule? When can you pray for a miracle, when can't you? And do we want miracles? Do they cost us or not? So the Gedolei Achronim, Reb Dessler, Reb Aaron Cutler, among others, they explain that, as always in Talmudic fashion, that there are two types of miracles, or two types of people, that is. On one hand, you have someone who lives on Teva. Someone who lives the normal, like all of us do. We live in the normal, we live and die by the rules of Teva, the laws of nature, we follow them. That type of person can't burden God to ask to break the law. You can't ask God to suspend the laws of nature. You can't go ahead and start asking for miracles. But Hanina ben Dosa, he was on the level where he lived. Miracles are all around him. Like he said, who will command vinegar to burn will also command oil. There's no, what's the difference? Oil, vinegar, everything. He lived mimala miderach hateva. In fact, Moshe Rabbeinu, 40 days and 40 nights he didn't eat. What do you mean he didn't eat? But it wasn't like if you gave him food he would have ate. He was just so, during those 40 days he was so above it. It's not that he was eating as a protest. It just never came to his mind. He was so involved. He rose. Nature for the great people could be limiting, not for us. But Moshe Rabbeinu rose above the laws of nature. Person who's living derech hateva can't ask God to suspend the laws of nature. Like for instance, let's say God, we live in Galus, we're surrounded by all this bikaris. He said, God, just do a little teeny miracle, just to give me something to go. You're still out there. Do a miracle for me, just to show something. So the Rambam writes, he calls that person a fool. Anyone who believes based on Nisim is a fool. Because even though we have many miracles in the Torah, it's not. We don't base our belief on. We believe on Moshe, what he did, not because of the miracles, because the Torah was given our Sinai and everything else. Anyone whose belief is based on miracles is foolishness. And of course, what comes to mind? Bobo the acrobat from Niagara Falls. The famous story that this guy Bobo the acrobat used to go to Niagara Falls, and he said, everyone come and I'm going to do my acrobat. I'm going to go across Niagara Falls on a little tightrope. And everyone's there, thousands of people, and he does it. He walks across, everyone's clapping. He says, you've seen nothing. I want you to come back tomorrow, bring your friends and relatives. I'm going to do something even better tomorrow. Okay, so then 10,000 people show up the next day, and he says, here's a wheelbarrow, I'm going to go through, I'm going to walk, or let's say, I'm going to go blindfolded, let's say, and he blindfolds across Niagara Falls. Everyone's saying, wow, it's amazing. Don't you see nothing? Come back tomorrow. 100,000 people come. You know what? I'm going to go blindfolded. I'm going to put someone in the wheelbarrow. Any volunteers? Silence. No, when it comes to, no one believes based on miracles. At the very, it's a Rambam calls it foolishness. So a person's on the Madrega, they live a life of miracle. Uzzah, so the Aron Kodesh didn't live by the laws of nature. Hanina ben Dosa, Leah, those people lived above the laws of nature. But us, the average person, you can't be somach on age, you can't be mispal for an age, but that's breaking the laws of Teva. And in fact, they say over a famous Maisa with Pinchas ben Yair. Pinchas ben Yair was known to do many miracles, and one of them, I guess that's where they got it from, he used to walk on water, they said. So what happened was So the students said, come on, tell me the trick, Rabbi. How do you do all these miracles? What is it, abracadabra? What's the special word? Just give me the code. I want to do the miracles like you do. So Pinchas ben Yair said, you want to do the miracles like me? If you could say, let's say from the time of your bar mitzvah, let's say, until now, you've never caused any harm to a human being, then you could, if you maver al midosav, as the Gemara says, if a person works on the midos and you did something which you never caused any harm, then you could do the miracles also. Now, what's Pinchas ben Yair's message? It's not God that does the miracles, of course it is God, but it's man who does the miracles. If you work on yourself with tikkun midos, of fixing your midos, then even you could end up doing miracles. So those are the two types. Either you have the different types of people who are on that level, and therefore they can ask for miracles, they can live that type of life. But for us, the average person, we can't ask God to break the laws of nature. So getting back, we left off with the question about Hanukkah. We asked the kasha of the Bechor Shor is, what about praying for miracles? We know we don't pray for miracles, and yet if you forget Al Hanisim, so in the davening, in the benching, in the good benches, you'll find Harachaman, how can we pray for miracles? There's a couple of answers on that. So the Bechor Shor, I'll give you his answer himself. His first answer is, he says, Devada Yachid Lo Yispalel Al Hanes. An individual cannot pray for a miracle. To me, who says he's fit? Who says he's worthy of a miracle? However, to pray for a miracle that happened to the community, to the tzibor, that's okay, because the tzibor has merit. In fact, that's what we do. The question is, during Aseret Shemei Tshuva, we say Micha Mocha, Zachrina. There are three sections to the Shemona Esrei. The first three sections is the Shevach, the praise. The middle section, Bakasha, request. And the concluding section, Hodah, thank you. So the problem is, we put Micha Mocha, that we're making a request to God in the Shevach. We don't mix. We don't put requests in the Sheva. So how are we allowed it? To some Rishonim don't like it. They don't say it. You shouldn't do it. But we do. So what do we do? So some say, interesting, that's the biggest praise. By us asking for God, it's Yom Hadin. We know our life and death is on the line. God, Zachreinu L'chayim. Remember us. What's the biggest praise is recognizing God, that we recognize God, you're it. But the other answer they give is because, no, we're not asking for ourselves. We're asking for the Rabbim. So when you're asking for the Rabbim, so then even in the first section. But that's what the Bechor Shor writes. You can't pray for a miracle for yourself. But who says you're worthy? You'll give up on it won't be worth the price you'll have to pay. But for a miracle for the Rabbim, that's okay. A2 is also along the lines we said, to ask for a miracle, derech hateva. He could have prayed, someone knocked on his door and someone brought him a container of milk. That's okay. But to pray for a nace, that, you're going to grow breast and breastfeed, that's not appropriate. A3 is just the opposite. Some say you can't pray for a miracle for derech hateva. You have to pray l'mala miderech hateva, because they want to point out, because Avram, by the 4 kings and 5 kings, he did the miracles, but it was a Kiddush Hashem because he did it in front of everyone. If you're going to do a private miracle, it's going to be wasted. But if you do a miracle, or a miracle which is derech hateva, no one's going to notice. If you do a miracle, breaking the laws, everyone will recognize it's God, and it'll be a Kiddush Hashem. So some say both directions, different opinions, whether you can ask for derech hateva or the reverse. A4 is that stam for your own needs, you can't ask for a miracle. But for mitzvah purposes, like on Hanukkah, why they wanted miracles? They could fulfill the mitzvah of menorah. They wanted to light with shem and tar. And the fifth and final answer is from the Bnei Yisachar, from the Chassidish Svarim, that it says by Kriyas Yamsuf, the Medrash says, Be'ito, that the Medrash tells us that during Sheish Shemei Breishis, when God created the world, He built into the Teva, whether 100 days later, 6 months later, 1,000 years later, a miracle would happen on this day. It was built in already on Sheshmei Bereshis that miracles would happen at a certain time. On Kriyas Yamsuf, the Medrash says was one. God, when He created the world, He set it up that a miracle would happen then. So, but it's usually those are one-time shots. So the Yisachar says by Hanukkah, the Chiddush of Hanukkah, every year during Hanukkah, that's the time of miracles. Chodesh Kislev, the Zman of Hanukkah, the Zman Mesugul, it's the Zman Fenisim, and that's all. Normally we can't ask for miracles, because normally it's a one-time shot, but the time of Hanukkah, during these 8 days of Hanukkah, it's a time in Nisan. Therefore, even ordinarily we can't pray for miracles, but here we can. So summarize, we discussed the apparent contradiction, whether there are miracles today or not. From the Gemara in Yuma with Esther, that Tit Purim was the last miracle, or we don't have miracles today because we don't sacrifice anymore like they used to. On the other hand, the Mishnah writes we make a bracha on miracles. The second question was that even if there are miracles, do we want them because they pay a price? You know, Menachem lo zechu yosef. You pay a price. But we see the person who grew bread or the person with the figs, it cost them dearly. On the other hand, Chanina Mendoza with the oil and vinegar was a good thing. Do we pray for a miracle? So we see on one hand, Gemara says no, but Leah prayed for a miracle, and we see during Hanukkah we pray for a miracle. And we know Ein Tzom Chalanes. Yet, you know, Chanina Mendoza put his foot on top of the hole, and when Uzzah tried to stop it, so it depends on where you're holding. If you ask God to suspend the laws of nature, you have no right to. And if you base your moon on that, you're a fool, like the Rambam said. But someone who lives in miracles, as we started off this year, everything's in nays. Vinegar, oil, mud min hashamayim, growing food out of the ground. It's just whatever we call miracles. And then we explain, can you pray for miracles? So we explain why Hanukkah was different, either because you're praying for the Rabbim, so it's okay, or we have in both directions, Derech HaTeva versus miraculous, or the opposite way. We have praying to do a mitzvah, or the Yisachar said Hanukkah is the Zman of miracles, and therefore, normally Kriyas Yamsuf, all those miracles are one-time shots, but Hanukkah is the time period for Nisim, and it's okay in these situations that we can ask for Nisim.